Welcome everybody. What's up? Sorry, I had to eat. I was dying of lack of food. So we are back, and tonight is analysis stream. Normally we're starting about 6:40, but due to the fact that I had a very busy day and I had to do stuff almost constantly, I had to start half an hour later due to dinner. So I have some energy for this thing. Welcome, Astrobate. Thanks, Mr. Slow, for subscribing. Mr. Slow has subscribed. He has subscribed 65 months, which is 5 years and 5 months. Exactly. Subscribed. Need to get a better can. All right. So you guys, let's see. I've got the window so that we can see the names, but the layout isn't really clean, and that the database there sort of sticks out over the anal retentive a little. Yes. So we have a choice here with a window capture. We can move it over. Let me see. I was thinking that anal must be a Latin word. Analysis, meaning from behind, in the behind, after the fact. But that would be retrograded. I don't know. I think this is a stupid theory of mine. It doesn't make sense. Let's fix this. It doesn't look better that way. This is fine. The moves are clear. Let's just leave it like that. All right. I need new glasses, but these will do. I can see the board. It's been a long day, a lot of computer time. I've got analysis from Astrobate. It seems like we just did this one. Astrobate, and then a submission from Rudolf Spielman via Mr. Slowhand, who just subscribed for 65 months for his 5 years and 5 months memorial. And then Mule Skinner, I've got a game from him. So that's 3 so far. I'm hoping to get more. We had a late start with the dinner, but we're good for at least 2 hours here, I hope. And we will be accepting more games from other subscribers, as we only have 3 to start. I mean, I can always entertain you with one of my horrible efforts from this week's Nightmare tournament. But first of all, let's start with a little lighthearted game from Astrobate. So Astrobate against Aquadog. Let's flip this up. Yeah, if I put on my glasses, it magnifies the board, so it doesn't look too small. But without the glasses, the board definitely feels too small. I liked when I did the tournament stream a couple weeks ago, and I put it on my TV. It was so nice having a big board. I really think the big board helps. Mr. Gotha has tipped 22-22, and Astrobate was putting in a lot of Gotha quotes, and unfortunately in US high school, we didn't study a lot of philosophy and German German writers. I don't know if that's like a post-World War II thing or what, but I had never written Goethe, obviously. I'd never read him, but most famous German writer, and there's the Goethe Institute, which is really cool. In the various, we were in Berlin, I saw the Goethe Institute there. Alright, so we've got... Oh, I know where else I saw one. When I was at the European Poker Tour, there was a Goethe Institute really close to... No, I lied. It wasn't at the European Poker Tour. It was when I went to Poland. Ironically, when I went to Poland to play in the summer last year in the World Senior Team Championship. When I went to Poland, there was a Goethe Institute there too. And Mr. Slow... All right. Frankfurt's a cool city. Mr. Slow from the outskirts of Frankfurt. I don't know why. I always used to think Mr. Slow was like from... I always thought you were like closer to Bavaria or something years ago. Well, why I got that impression? Maybe you played at some tournament. You sent us a game from Bavaria. Alright. But anyway, I won't insult Frankfurt anymore. Then... Dude, why do I keep getting bombarded by I don't know, something happened with Discord that it started firing out. I had it chilled out, and now it's firing out notifications all over the place. So, alright, Asterbait is playing black. We have e4, c5, knight f3, knight to c6, and Asterbait, you always play the g6, and there's nothing wrong with g6. It's a little bit different. I think objectively, especially at the lower levels, g6 is the better move. But do you remember why I recommended you to play knight c6? Let's ask him and see if he even remembers why. Asterbait is a space cadet. He lives in his own world of disinformation. No, I'm just kidding. No, Asterbait, you're a space cadet. But the point of playing knight c6 was, fill in the blank. He looks panicked. Asterbait, tell the class why I recommended you to play knight c6 instead of g6. In 15 words or less. Because of the queen takes d4 variations? Being tricky? Do you remember? The look on his face. That blank look. No. Well, that Alas Ras Limo wasn't my intention. That's a good point that Alas Ras Limo. You see, the problem was when he was playing g6, all of the noobs would play things like the Bodler attack against him. And so, consequently, as a result of the move to g6, he would never get people actually playing proper accelerated dragons. It was causing all of his opponents to go off the main line. And I think with knight c6, there's a better chance, and this is a good example, there's a better chance we're going to get a proper Sicilian with d4. It's not that I wanted him to face the Ras Limo. He's actually adapted pretty well to playing the black side of the Ras Limo. But the point was I wanted to get him more practice where people are actually playing a proper open accelerated dragon. And it seems to help because, ironically, this guy goes knight c3 first. But anyway, we still got a d4 out of him, which was the whole point, because they're just going off the radar like very early. And if you're going to play the accelerated dragon or the hyper accelerated dragon, you got to get some practice playing the main lines. So, alright, c takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop g7, and immediately off the radar again. White, and white only has effectively like one good move here, bishop e3. And, not a lot of chess players are capable of finding one good move. Did I really say that? Skeptical. Development of the queen's bishop is a serious headache. That sounds made up. We should have, like, Saturday Night Live. Chess Jeopardy. Fake quotes. Alright, knight takes c6. It sounds like something I might have said. I might have said it. It's not one of those things I'm saying, like, all the time. But anyway, knight takes c6, okay, this is a trashy move. But wasn't it Mr. Slow himself? Mr. Slow himself was advocating this in a similar position. I don't know if it was this move order. B takes c. I'm thinking, like, your knight c6 was a move earlier. Bishop c4. We talked about this like 2 weeks ago, where black's effort should be like primarily about preventing e5. And so queen c7 is a more accurate form. Queen c7, Mr. Slow showed a game where he got the old, kind of like e5 thing going on. Yeah. So, maybe people are following you, or you watch the same YouTube channels. But, damn, Asterbait. Damn, Asterbait, like, dialed into Gingy mode now. Did you get a permission slip for this? Absolutely not. Wow, you've never done this before. He has never done this before. But let's check it out. Maybe he has. Let's see if... We don't want to see Sparkle Horse. Asterbait. I'm very curious now. Asterbait is black. Okay, all set. Boom. 14 games with knight f6. 6 games with d6. 6 with a5. I love that. 5 with e6. 2 with d5. 1 with queen c7. You tried everything, man. Wow. And 1 with bishop takes c3. And that's the game. Oh, this is the second one then. So this isn't in there. The sauce is boss. Sauce the Nerd. Asterbait 2023 September. Where bishop takes c3. I mean, this piece is just... It's too good. It's probably too good to trade for the knight on c3, despite doubling the pawns. But, on the other hand, it may not be that bad. You'd make a good stalker, Fancy Chess. You have a real future in stalking. So bishop takes c3 check. AI stalkers. Bishop takes c3 check. No, Asterbait, you should play the queen c7 probably. On queen f3 you had one of these. Man, you have knight f6 here. Then bishop f4. And we go to Peter Ustinov against Anarchiev, d6. And now the e5 doesn't work. Unless you want to play it like this, maybe. Peter Ustinov. So I recommend queen c7 Asterbait in the future. So bishop takes c3. Even I have never played that. Although as much as I like the Gingy Indian type of stuff. Could we try something like bishop a6 now? While we're on the subject of Gingy Indian, wonder if it would be worthwhile to try to knock this guy's bishop pair out before it becomes a thing. So here we have multiple threats. Queen f3 looks like a good move, unfortunately. In that case, we have to play knight f6, and now I could just simply castle. And my idea is bishop a6. So what do you guys think about this? It's not that great, but it may not be that bad. I wonder how stupid this is. The idea is that we could get the bishops off the board and play, eliminating the opponent's bishop pair. I mean, it may be that his best bet is something like bishop d3. If he plays bishop takes a6, queen takes a6, e5, knight d5. I mean, I think this is okay. Computer thinks that white has a slight edge. Let's check this out. Bishop takes c3. Wow. B takes c, but I mean, queen a5 is top 2. Damn, Asterbait. You've invented a new way of playing these positions. I like this. I like this. Maybe Asterbait's greatest theoretical contribution of all time. Bishop takes c3 check. Screw these guys with their robotic, Bodler-like attack. The problem with queen a5 turns out to be queen d4. We cannot afford to play e5 because I would think like the dark squares, particularly d6, is very weak, but he can't do that yet. But just in general, the dark squares is too weak. We can't afford to do this. f6 is ugly, so you have to play knight f6 now. And now white has legitimate e5. White does seem better. Yeah, I mean, it's not quite good enough. It's not quite good enough for black. But it remains playable. And I don't think a lot of people are going to find queen d4. They're more likely to go with queen f3. In which case, my bishop a6 move may have some kind of flaw. Did I suggest bishop a6 there? I did that, didn't I? Did I suggest that? No. I suggested knight f6, castles, and then bishop a6. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't hang queen takes f7 check. So now bishop a6, queen a6, bishop h6 preventing castling, and now rook g8 threatening g5, trapping the bishop. Anyway, it's worth playing in blitz, but I don't know that I would trust this in an OTB game. But Asterbate, kudos for playing outside the box with bishop takes c3, b takes c, and now the atrocity. Ugh. Depends on what e5 you're talking about. The atrocity rating? The apocalyptic rating on a scale of 1 to 10? What is the apocalyptic rating of? If chess moves were like, you know, incoming asteroids, what is the apocalyptic rating of the move e5? Oof. This is really bad. We're in big trouble now. We're in big trouble now, man. Asterbate was thinking, okay, I trade off my dark square bishop, and then I can play e5 and put my pawns on the dark squares, which would probably be okay in some cases. But this is particularly weak, like d6. So he could play that right away. That move actually may not be that's dangerous, because you could probably get rid of it. It's like a Lowenthal. Queen c7, it's Lowenthal. It's like queen c7, queen c5. Whoops. White's just losing. Alright. Anyway, this is amusing, but man, Asterbate, queen a5 would have been better. Queen a5 or developing with knight e4. Knight f6, sorry, with the idea of knight e4. This is bad. And I thought I was loose. I'm loose. There's this band from Sweden called the Viagra Boys, and one of their songs is like something like, "I'm loose. I'm so loose," and I think it's funny because it relates to poker, but it also relates to chess. The position is really loose for white after f4. But I mean, e5 is such a bad move that's almost justifiable, you know, f4. And the dark squares are so weak, it's almost justifiable. I mean, it's really, the intention is good on f4. I mean, you got to give him credit. This is a totally valid instinct. But I mean, white could have played so many other moves. I mean, bishop a3. Mr. Slow is all over that, you know. If Mr. Slow is white, we'd probably see like bishop a3. I mean, you could play castles and then decide how to kill black here, for sure. Take your time about it. Get your king to a safe position, then kill him. You know, it's not like black can do anything about it. But I think this is probably best, because you can answer queen a5 with bishop b4. No problem there. There's no threats for black. I think it's very bad. No, I mean, it's just a little early to be doing this. Now, Asterbate, playing it like the black side of King's Gambit, dude, your position is very empty, and you're playing d5. Is the glass half full or half empty, Asterbate? I would say he's an optimist. He just likes playing d5, but it looks particularly bad here. Wow. So you're really hoping for this. But that would be illogical since it hangs a piece. You know, you want your opponent to take on e5 because you have the king's gambit trap with like queen h4 check, queen takes e4 check. So it would be in black's best interest to try to get white to take on e5, but there's really no way to make him do that. What would I play here with black? I think d6 objectively, though it looks pretty bad no matter what. This is really bad. A disoriented Wolverine. Yeah, d5 is crazy, man. You confused the hell out of this guy. E takes d5, and now when he was expecting black to recapture, out of the blue, boom, check. Now, obviously, white has simply g3, and white is objectively winning. Queen h3. The problem is white's king. You know, like, this is why I criticize f4. Both sides have unsafe king. You know, they can't coordinate their positions because their king isn't safe. So no matter how big white's advantage is here, there's still a chance this is going to go wrong. His king is vulnerable. You know, the writing is on the wall. If only Asterbate could complete his development somehow. So, queen f3, a sensible looking move by white again. And now, just when you thought it was safe, Asterbate feeds another pawn. This can't be good. I'm taking that too. Check. And now king f8. Now if black had like 3 moves in a row, i.e. knight f6, king g7, rook e8, he's probably winning the enemy queen. I mean, there's bishop a3 check. There's queen e5, f6, queen c7 type of stuff. Can the black king walk out? Okay, this is undoubtedly a bad move for white. I mean, d6, because I think this is such an interesting possibility, right? Probably white's winning after bishop a3 check, king g7. I was honestly thinking that maybe white should castle queenside. And it's not simple, but I think that he should be winning. Not necessarily based on his pawn structure. But what I was wondering is, could white get trapped into some kind of line like this where, you know, he just keeps giving checks and eventually just ends up with nothing to do? This still looks good for white. You can't even move your knight. He would have had, Asterbate would have, what would you have done? I mean, a queen e5 check. You could go here and drop a rook. That doesn't look good. So, you know, the problem is this. And then bishop e7. And that's the real problem. There's just nothing to do about that. Now you'd have to trade queens to not lose a piece. So it's a complete disaster. This is an utter and total disaster. I mean, after bishop a3 check, I think you're just done. You have to play king g7, and then queen check, and you're lost. You have to be lost here. But the opponent closes the lines with d6. He closes that dark diagonal. Oh, and then the other rook comes over. Oh my god. Oh no, this is even worse than I thought. I was worried about the other rook. He closes his own line. Wow, I mean, that's really bad. Is he lost now in one move, like d6, and he's lost because you have bishop f5 and rook e8? Damn. That's one bad move he played there. This doesn't help. Check. And white has king d2. The queen covers the g2 square, so you can't go in. So it appears that this is still a legit option. This doesn't look good though. We have bishop e4. Not that that's a threat, but queen g2 is kind of a problem. opponent was thinking of the knight moving queen e7. Here. Yeah, he's hoping for this, and somehow this would be good. But I mean, even that doesn't do anything. He closed his own lines. So this actually happened in the game, but the white king should have probably gone to d2. f2 feels like even worse, because you're going to get the queen coming in here. And that's what happened. Check. King would have been better on d2. If you put the king on d2, I was thinking that he has time to maybe run his king over, but I guess that might not work. That might not even work anyway. Yeah. You're still... Let's see. Bishop a3. Bishop e4. There's no time for bishop a3. Maybe we can sack our queen. Check. King takes. Check. No. No, it's lost. It's just lost. Unbelievable. White's just lost. He's not lost. Wow. Wow, he's not lost after king d2. I can't believe it. He's really not lost after king d2. Holy shit. King d2. Bishop e4, queen c5. Oh my god. And now the threat of d7 check. Queen g2 check. I didn't see this. Bishop e2. Wins for white. So man, the dude still could survive after king d2. It turns out. But you're still better. But king f2 is lost. King f2 has to be lost. This is just 10 times worse than king d2. Oops. Check. And then mate. Yeah, what's the most artistic mate here? There's only one mate. Only one immediate mate. Yeah, gotta take queen e4. Well, there is queen f2. And this is mate in 2, right? Mate in 3. But there's no real sense in that. Yeah. Alright. Interesting game, Masturbate. The power of the new. The mysterious new power has submitted a game to the stream. We have no idea if Power of the New is an actual subscriber. It's the craziest thing. Alright, copy PGN. What is this, a position? Is this a position or a game? I guess it's a position. It would be a position. Chapter PGN. Alright, let's see. Learn. Guys, thank you for joining us. It's an actual game. Bonjour. Bonjour. I don't speak French. But bonjour. Remember Bonjour Jeans? Alright, so let's go on to Rudolf Spielmann. Astrobate, that was entertaining. I liked queen. I liked bishop takes c3 check. I'm gonna open the windows here, get some air. Very cold, but not as cold as in Germany, right, Mr. Slow? 42 was complaining. He said his car battery died yesterday. The German cold, man. So that's what you get. He doesn't have a German car. He's German and doesn't have a German car. In his car, they had to call the car ambulance. So, Mr. Slow, thank you for subscribing. We had and a good donation from Mr. Slowgoth with 2222, bringing us up to 629.38. That's really messed up. That's really messed up. Someone's got to fix that. Desktop machine donation goal. 39 days to go. 629.38. What kind of crazy person creates that number? 62938. Alright, everybody. Jacques Mises was born Jacob Mises It's interesting. I have a friend named Meshesh. That's Hungarian. But I don't know how the proper pronunciation is. Mises pieces? Like the candy? If you ask an American how to pronounce it, they'll say it's Mises. Mises. But the fact that it's Jacob, it might be a Jewish player. Which case, I'm curious about the pronunciation of the name. German-born, I like it. German-born British chess player. He was one of the inaugural recipients of the title International Grandmaster from FIDE. I did not know that. I did not think that Mises, that's how I try to pronounce it, was actually one of the original in 1950. He became a naturalized British citizen after World War II. I mean, if he left Germany, there's a good chance he was Jewish. If he left Germany to go to the UK. Jacques. But why did he choose to be Jacques? That would be French. It's weird. I always thought he was like French or something. French, German, not German-British. Why would you choose to be Jacques? So if your name is Jacob, you could be Jack. But Jacques is like Jacques Cousteau. It's like you're living in France or something. Alright. He wants to fool people into thinking he's French. D4, D5. Anyway, this is black. To get bullied by the Brits. Yeah, really. Making fun of his French name. He's going to be popular in Britain with a French name, right? They love the French there, especially after Hastings, 1066. D4, D5, C4, E6, Knight C3. So we're taking the side of Rudolf Spielmann here, the attacking master. And yes, this is black. Knight F6, Queen's Gambit, Bishop G5. And what year was this game played? Regensburg, 1910. Regensburg. That is where? Is that like near Berlin? Or is that in... my German geography is so bad. Regensburg, is that in East Germany, or is it like in the south? Bavaria, okay. So Bishop G5, Knight on BD7. And then, well, we would call this the Cambridge Springs variation. Knight F3, C6. Now it's legit Cambridge Springs variation. E3, Queen A5. That is literally the Cambridge Springs variation, named after tournaments that took place in that town in Pennsylvania, and I don't know the story behind that. How a town in Pennsylvania came to host chess tournaments back in the day. But anyway, this is not a chess history course. Rady called Spielmann the last player of the Romantic era. Interesting. Well, he wasn't... I guess he wasn't a hyper-modernist, I was thinking, man, something I had never realized. But, Reti and Breyer, who lived a very short life, and obviously Nimzovich were the hyper-modern school of chess. But honestly, I was thinking that maybe I'm off base because honestly, Blackburn played a lot of games that were like classical in nature. But man, Blackburn played a kind of hyper-modern game in a lot of cases. I mean, especially, I'm thinking like Blackburn was almost like an early hyper-modernist, essentially. And that's in the 1800s, before Nimzovich or, the proper hypermodernists came to exist as a school. But anyways, knight d2, the classical move here. Oh, this brings me back to a game from my tournament. Attila Turzo, who lost against me in the last round, unrelated comment, played the Cambridge Springs against this guy from Israel who was the lowest rated player at 2100. And man, the guy got a tremendous position against Turzo in this main line. I mean, I'm going to play C takes D. I was prepared to play this against someone at the World Senior. I forget who it was. Oh, I think Dr. Boris. Dr. Boris played the Cambridge Springs, and I was totally prepared for him. And then he fucking played like the Slav. He played your countryman, Dr. Boris. He played the stupid Botvinnik variation, or, you know, he played the semi-Slav against me. And I was expecting a frickin' Cambridge Springs. He sidestepped my preparation. But C takes D is kind of the modern move. And in these days, knight d2 was, well, you know, even later, Aliakin would play. Actually, Aliakin would play probably both colors in the Cambridge Springs. I'm not sure, but it was a very popular opening in this area a little bit late. This era a little bit later. Knight d2 main line. Again, I think this is better. I think CD is better. Then the question is actually, which I was debating. In this position, I can't figure out if it's better. I'm not sure if it's better to play Queen d2 or Rook c1. It's really hard to determine which of these moves is literally better. Anyway, Turzo got a really sketch position after Queen d2, Bishop e4. I didn't know what he was doing. He must have misplayed it pretty seriously. Alright, anyways. He drew. He was like in a horrible position. Now, I lost a game like this when I was starting out. Queen c2, castles, and then my favorite blunder of all time from the chess club when I was like 1500. I just dropped a piece with d takes c4. You know, the old queen takes g5. One of my fondest memories of losing a game in like, you know, 15 moves or less, like an idiot. Maybe my opponent's still alive. George, what's his last name? Okay, Queen c2. So black takes right away. D takes c4 doesn't seem like as flexible as castles. Black has a lot of different ways to play these. Arnold Dinker played knight e4 against me in the New York Open. And another player repeated that, Jenny Franklock. And I think I drew against her. But this line is pretty dubious for black. So I would recommend castles as the most flexible. He plays d takes c4, and now bishop takes f6, knight takes f6, knight takes c4, queen c7. So this is the way that later I remember one distinctive game Aliakin played. But I don't think this variation promises much for white. I think no, I don't think I think 94 is playable, but it's like a dubious sideline. Not that easy to refute. I won a really beautiful game against Dinker, though. I wish I can find that one day. Queen c7. That was like his last tournament, probably. It was like 1994 New York Open. No, 96. Maybe 96. But I think that was as late as it could have been. 96. Arnold Dinker. Maybe the last tournament he could have ever possibly played in. He was really old. Anyways, Queen c7, and then I was thinking that it's possible for white to play g3, but black can break in the center, sometimes with c5. I think Aliakin just did like a3, bishop e7, b4. So for example, a3, bishop e7, b4, castles, bishop e2. And the problem for black is that you're just like, maybe Capablanca, Aliakin? Or Aliakin, Capablanca, I can't remember. But, because they would both play the Queen's Gambit declined at one point. White has such an easy position to play, but how do you beat black? It's not so easy. He's very solid. The bishop goes like here, here. Black puts his rooks on d8 and c8 and just hunkers down. So white played bishop d3. I don't think I've ever seen this before. I literally never saw anyone play bishop d3 here. Because the thinking would be that in a lot of cases, I want my bishop to go there. If black tries to play c5, then I can pressure like a fianchetto. Whereas I'm not really sure what the bishop does on d3 in the kind of traditional position for the bishop in the Queen's Gambit. But I mean, what are we really doing with it there? You know, it's attacking h7, so that's good. We're attacking h7. Keeping the knight tied down to h7 might be a useful thing. But it doesn't do anything about c5. So that's the number one move in this position, c5. Guillermo Vasquez. It's a new one. And Tishbiriak, the young, 1979. Jeez. Alright, let's go on here. Queen c7, bishop d3. It's a little early to play c5. Black hasn't even castled yet. But then again, neither has white. So the point is there's no knight b5, because that's illegal. So what is white going to do? I mean, castle and allow these pawns to be isolated, or this pawn to be isolated on d4? That looks pretty ugly. With bishop d3... Why is black not playing c5? Maybe he didn't like... He doesn't like a3. Bishop takes c3. Queen takes c3. C takes d. Queen takes d4 when white has some tiny edge. But I don't see any reason why black has to exchange necessarily here. For example, castles. Black seems okay. One thing I do hate is this. This is this game, Konrad Koiter against future German Grandmaster Raj Tishbiriak. Where is like white's game after this? I'm just wondering. This is boring. It's just boring. It's just a draw. Okay, next game. So, bishop d3, bishop d7, ugly passive move, a3, and so now, yeah, isn't that a beauty on d7? Here, unexpected move. That's black's good bishop. And I would anticipate black keeping that on e7 if he's going to retreat. But he goes to d6, which I guess supports e5. But I mean, playing e5 and putting your other bishop on d7 don't really seem to make sense. You know what I mean? Like, I understand playing bishop d6 to support e5, but what I don't understand is playing bishop d7 first, because that doesn't do anything. I mean, if you're going to put the bishop on d7, what's the point in playing it so early? I don't understand. So e4, e5. At that point, I'm not sure black has another option. You know, he's kind of like forced to play this. Takes. No. F4. Oh, surprise! A happy surprise. So how bad would it be to just go back to e7 at the end of the day? So the problem is, if e4 and you try to castle, you're losing your h7 pawn. This is annoying. You can't do that. But this is a big but. There is this move, and the c5. Now it's a little different story, though. We have this complicated, a complicated position after d5. This is possible. Bishop d7 would make a lot of sense here, you know. White needs time to play like a4 to stop b5. So I'm not sure what white would do. Would white play e4? Would he play b4? Would he just castle? Is black threatening c5? So if I castle, does black have c5? And if black has c5, is he out of the woods, so to speak? So I think that Mises was just like inconsistent, you know? Like bishop d7 seems like it's about playing for c5. Then he suddenly like changes his mind. Could he have taken? Yes, of course. Queen takes, c5. Then we can pin black on the file. This looks kind of unpleasant. Oh, maybe that's not even so clear. Queen takes, c5, knight e5, knight d5. And if you try to stay on the file, there's a queen a5 check. So that's not that clear either. I think that black needs to try to play c5, not e5, if he's going to play bishop d7. But this is definitely weird, and it's not a wonder that this happened. Okay, so now white finds a fantastic move, f4. And there's a real problem where black looks like, you know, he's close to maybe losing a piece here. Have to take. And now white could take on d6 and then play e5, but then there'd be like a queen move. So if we take on d6 and e5, we can pin said pawn with a queen. So he plays this, threatening knight takes d6 check. And now the bishop goes to e7, you lose a piece to pawn takes f6, so you have to go to a different square, which means either c5 or f8. Easy as that, simple as that. So black is very disoriented here. He plays bishop f8, e takes f6, d takes c3, and everything's fine until somebody loses an eye. And Mises now encounters queen e2 check, and bishop e6 would be f5, indubitably winning a piece. So he has to play king d8, and this is an unmitigated disaster of Acerbaidian levels. White's king is not 100% safe either. It should be noted. I mean, this looks really good for white at first glance, but at the same time, your king is 100% safe. Maybe we need to castle. So I was expecting castle's king side, but I think I see the writing on the wall. He castles queen side. Basic idea is, I think, on pawn takes, you play king b1 and you hide in front of the pawn, or behind the pawn if you prefer. It's a half glass, half full, half empty kind of thing. But Mises actually goes for the other pawns. Check with queen takes f4, and snacking a second pawn possible here with queen takes f6. It's too late for that though, because the d file is too scary. There's too much going on here. So he has to move his king. And now I'd assume that white has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces developed to black's like 2.5. And that's overwhelming, especially with the black king being in the middle of the board. And somehow I don't think that black's bishop pair is going to really bail him out here. Rook f1, queen g5, and now the distractionary h4 to drive the queen off of e5. He wants to drive the queen away from control of e5 so he can play queen e5 check. Black has to go here. Now it's possible to play b4. I would imagine b4, queen b5 or something. So white just takes, and now there's that, which is a crusher. Rook takes f7 is devastating. Devastating threats here and here. It's over. Or is it? This has got to be over. There's a possibility like c2. There's a c2 sort of check that might buy black some time. You know, so I don't know. If bishop f5, for example, would this matter? This looks really bad for black anyway. You still have 5. You still have to be precise. I have 5 attacking pieces to be precise. I mean, the pin looks crushing though, doesn't it? Doesn't it look like this, like the Energizer Bunny? I mean, if c2 is guarded, double guarded, don't we have like a million ways to stack up on that bishop on d7? So, I mean, theoretically, you could play queen g4. You could play bishop f5. Well, maybe he sacks the queen there. Oh, shit. Oh, no. You have to be precise. Thank you, Mr. Slow. You just made me realize that this move could be legit. Oh, my God. Imagine the horror if you played bishop f5 and the guy sacked his queen now. And you, like, face palm. I can't believe I did that. Oh my god. What's going on here after bishop takes f5 check? Where the black rooks are just entering the game? I'm beginning to wonder if black isn't even better. Chess Dexter rating with Party of 11. Thank you, Chess Dexter. White's still winning. It's still winning. I would be scared. Thank you guys. Welcome, Raiders. Party of 11. I think we have room in the back. Man, the queen sack isn't quite enough. The queen sack is not quite enough. Is there another defense? No. Yeah, so as Mr. Slow said, you do have to be precise. I would fall out of my chair if my opponent sacked his queen here. You know, I'd be like, oh my god, I did that. You know, it's not necessary to allow that. But he goes with a really forcing move here, which allows no nonsense. Rook takes d7 check, but this is a serious material investment. And how are we going to get him on the dark squares? Mr. Coffee's here. All right, just in time for the raid. I'm Canadian. How are you? We're going good. Well, okay, so we sacked the exchange, but my question would be this, like, how are we attacking black on the dark squares? Because the dark squares seem to be a problem. I mean, after king takes, I don't, you know, at first glance see exactly what we've got. Something with the bishop on d4, probably. Pinning that. Not easy to attack the black king on c7. So this is a bit of a fancy combination, you know, by by Spielman. I see that, Mr. Coffee. Thank you. Good thing you were here to do that. I'm so overwhelmed by my busy day and analysis that I don't have the mod mode turned on. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would have looked for Queen G4 check. And actually, we do have these guys over here. So, okay, fair enough. Like, he could have played it. Oh, he did play it like this. Okay. Yeah, because the computer, the engine wanted to play a move that I think is like non-attractive to humans. The engine wanted to start with B4. And the way that he's played this game, I think that's unlikely. He's been pretty chill about keeping his pawns back, and he could have played B4 earlier. So Queen G4 check, this is strong. And now Black King is going to face another check on C7. So that's how we get him on the dark squares. It's easy to see how we can get him on the white squares with Bishop F5. But this sucks the king off of C7. So now check. This is more active than G3. It also attacks D4. So Black has no choice now. He's crushed if he goes to C8 or D8 or D7, so he has to give back a piece. He's hoping for a queen exchange now. If the queen is exchanged, you know, probably white is technically better, but it looks like anybody's guess what happens. Honestly, there. It's like 0. We don't want to trade queens with the Black King exposed. And now, no king b6 is a safe guess. The king would like to get the b6. Perhaps some rook f8, and that's what he does. Yeah, so this had to be like carefully calculated. If queen g3, you get a rook g8. So he goes all the way back to h2. It's very aesthetic. Queen is not very mobile on h2, but the key is that he can never go king b6 because of knight d7 check. So he can't go to the d file. He can't go to b6, and he's facing very strong discovered checks now. So that really only leaves him with c8, right? So let's ask the question, if king c8, oh, it's over. It's just over. Ah, or is it? It is. Queen h3 check, and then king c7. We do a king hunt. Hold on a second now. Is it so simple? Maybe not. Maybe we have to go here and win. Oops, we're going to get mated. Well, that pops up in the game. So is this that simple? Queen h2, king c8. He didn't play that. Queen h3, that's what I was thinking. But now he goes to c7. There's this, threatening mate. And, okay, maybe white has something here, but I'm not seeing it immediately. This check is okay, and then he just walks away. I mean, there's a family fork on d7, but that's occupado. And knight d7, queen f2. Okay, maybe that's not a problem. You know, maybe we just interpose the bishop or whatever, but we're still not winning with white. We don't have any active threat other than taking the rook, which can be parried. So this doesn't look that simple. It is knight d7, and now queen f2. Oh, of course. Shit. Wow, there's queen b8 check. Oh man, I totally missed it. No, queen b8 check. Never saw it coming. So that's a really sweet move. He can sack a piece. Queen b8 check, king d7. Bishop f5 check, king e7. And then black is in a mating net. So I think that was important. That was important for white. Like, that looks like king c8 is the way out here. It's the only, like, good-looking way out. But exactly. Still. Well, that's a different position. What am I looking after? Queen h3, king c7. Knight d7. Right. Checking queen b8. So he could go here. And we're just winning. Okay, well, you have to be precise, like Mr. Slow said. He played queen f2, bishop c2, and now here, and now we have discoveries. But, again, if you try to be fancy with something like knight g6, king b6, knight takes f8, rook takes g2, that could be a little complicated. I don't know, maybe we're still winning somehow. Knight d7 check, king a5, b4 check. Are we still winning here? Oh my god, we are. We're still winning here, even with the rook and queen double on the 7th. White's still winning. King here, bishop d3 check, b5, knight c5 check. Again, he has to move the king. King b6, queen b8 check. That's striking. King c5, queen takes a7 check. King d6. It's easy to see all this, right? Check. King e6. Yeah, I mean, it's too complicated to be able to calculate this all the way out. But I was expecting knight. Let's just say I was expecting knight g6 check, and he doesn't do it. He goes knight d7. I mean, rook d7. Rook d7. Knight d7 obviously doesn't do anything here. But this move I didn't see. I definitely would have gone knight g6. I would have been scared of the doubling on the 7th. But check. Check. And now, yeah, well, this is nice. Now you've got all 4 pieces, again, in a sort of coordinated attacking force, while black is too slow. This is cute, though. Check here, takes with check, and then b3. I wonder if... I guess bishop b3 wouldn't be good enough because of queen here. This might not work, right? Better to just play b3. It looks like black's hanging on. By the way, if bishop d3, that's a problem. Bro. Check. King a1. Check. Check. Oof. That would be embarrassing. Queen b5 check, a4. Queen b6. Check. King a5. And now queen e5 check. Oh my god. So, okay. This is the problem. So you have to play c5. But that doesn't help. We still have rook d4. So this would be winning as well. Well, actually, it's not check. We are threatening, I would assume, something with b4. But who knows? You know, maybe that's not deadly. No, I mean, rook takes g2 check. Yeah, white could actually get mated. That's That's another disturbing line. If rook d4, rook takes here, check. King a3, and rook f2. That's kind of awkward. b4. Queen takes, rook takes, rook check, king b3, rook check, king takes pawn. This is not over. Maybe it's still winning for white, huh? Look, Mom, then more checks. Rook takes, check. King a4, check. Yeah, I think that white is winning. All right, anyway, we've taken this as far as we're going to take it. Rook takes b7 was the game. Beautiful move. Very artistic. There was a mate in 1 in that variation. What? Are you sure? What? Mate in 1. I had a mate in 1? Oh, mate in 1 with queen takes b4. I played bishop c2 check, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what you guys meant. Okay. So rook, yeah, this is... I'm going to close the ambulance window just a second. Rook takes b7. Okay, rook takes g2. Obviously, if queen takes, then queen takes c5 check. And then here, here, here. Now something elegant, no? Played rook takes b6. I was hoping for something more elegant, but there's nothing there, huh? Just had to settle for the droll Dr. George Droll. He had to settle for the droll rook takes b6. That's so lame. This move is kind of a letdown, you know, honestly. You feel that there's something like really aesthetic coming on. Nothing here? Really? Right, queen c7 type of stuff? That's a cool idea. I don't think it works. I was wondering about queen takes c3 check, but unfortunately, you know, he's got multiple pieces he can interpose here. Black is actually winning after queen b4. Oof. What a nightmare. So rook takes b6 is the best move, clearly. There's no better way to do it. Alright guys, I'm going to close the window. Boom. No more ambulances. Hungarians have the loudest ambulances of any country in Europe, from what I know. Alright, Mr. So, thank you. Excellent game, very fun. But I don't know about that opening, man. I mean, what was bishop d7 about? And bishop d3 isn't even a good move, I would assume, for white. This is like never played. You know how many times I played this position with white? Like, a lot. I don't think I've ever considered even putting my bishop on d3 in my life. I mean, because I've studied games and I just don't really see it. But it had some independent value. This is really important that black plays c5 right away. And if black isn't paying attention... which he wasn't, but I mean, this move is a real stinker. Bishop d7. a3, bishop e7. And we get a normal kind of setup for black castles. Bishop e8, rook fd8. Rook fd8, bishop e8, rook a c8. Steinitz played like this stuff with black too. You know, really suffering with no space with the two bishops. Alright. Now we got not a lot of games tonight. I've got a game from Mule Skinner. We'll go over this next. I don't mind if tonight is a short analysis stream because I'm really exhausted. I had a tournament finish early this week and I haven't really recovered from that. had to change my whole sleep schedule, so I was staying up late at night all the time playing poker and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden I like completely reversed to doing a morning chess tournament. It was really tough to adjust. So I'm still feeling it. Okay, this is from Mule Skinner, one of our long-time subscribers. Guys, please subscribe if you like the stream. Bill Boop, thank you for being a subscriber. Guys, don't forget to subscribe and start a hype train here. Our audience is not plentiful on analysis stream nights. People don't like to take chess too seriously. They like to view chess as sort of a surface video game. Chess is becoming more of a video game, like a very sort of shallow and cheap video game. But I don't view it like that, and I never will. But in any case, analysis streams are my one of my favorite things to do, but also, we probably have the least viewers here because people don't have the patience to watch us analyze and talk about like long games in depth. And I do present the games kind of somewhat advanced, from an advanced perspective. So absolute beginners may not really appreciate what we're talking about. But if you are an absolute beginner, you got to start somewhere and you get better. And it's not going to hurt to watch us discuss these games here. So Mule Skinner is playing black. Our opponent played d4, and he's a Benko Gambit player normally. But the opponent doesn't play c4. So the opponent plays knight f3. And now the problem is, if you play the Benoni or the Benko, the thing is, like, Asterbait, are you here? c5 is not... What's up, these tricks? c5 is not that simple. This is a riskier move than normal, because white hasn't played d4 and c4. You can't just play c5 indifferently here, as if it's a normal queen-pawn game. Remember, okay? White isn't committed to playing c4. So here's the problem. If you play c5 and white plays d5, what do? If you play like it's a Benoni, white doesn't have to play c4. White can play instead knight to c3. And now we have a problem. That's why black's best moves in this position are probably either b5, which is very sharp and hyper-modern, or play the Schmid-Benoni with like g6. g6, knight c3, bishop g7, and e4. So you can't just play c5 as a Benko or Benoni player here. You probably should play something else, like e6, Asterbait. Or my favorite move, my win against Terzo Attila on Tuesday, I recommend b6, but I don't think this is good for a Benoni player, I guess if you're a Benoni player, you should play e6. And a Benoni or Benko player should play e6, but Benko is probably out of luck anyway. Benoni player plays e6, hope for c4, and you still have a chance to play c5. But for me, I can play the Queen's Indian. I like to play the accelerated Queen's Indian. I like b6. But, okay, black plays d5. Now we have a classical opening. White plays a Tory attack with bishop g5. And last time I played this position, I lost to a very strong Hungarian grandmaster in Rapid, Imre Balog. He's like very, very strong. This was right after COVID. We had some Rapid tournament where I played Imre in the last round, and he had won the tournament even if he lost against me. But at least I made it to board 1. But bishop g5, I played c5. I like c5, turning into a kind of... well, this can be a Trompowsky if white plays bishop takes f6. That's my preference, to go with c5 here. Another move is knight on bd7. Kind of passive, solid. And then there's like traditional e6. I mean, as a French defense player, I would think like Muleskinner would be okay with playing the e6 type of setup here. There's also knight e4. And, you know, whereas knight e4 I think isn't so good against the Trompowsky. Why? It's not so good against the Trompowsky because, well, number one, you know, there's no knight on f3, so the pawn can advance to f3, kicking the knight on e4. Here, things are a little bit different. I think it's better than against the Trompowsky, but it still doesn't. It's not a placebo or whatever you call it, panacea, placebo, panacea, whatever. They're both like things that make things better or seem like they do. A placebo can be a panacea, right? So knight e4. Bishop h4. We're still not getting out of this damn pin. Then c5. This is my old analysis. Yeah. So that's my old analysis, and this is my new analysis, and this is possible. But I never played bishop f5. I swear, I took an oath not to play the London system. So bishop f5. So it's reasonable. You know, it's reasonable. I don't know if this can be used against us in a court of law. Can white play a like quick c4? Habdin Mitkov, Dimmakling, Dimmalingling, Maxwell Fuller. That sounds like a correspondence game. Correspondence players always had the weirdest sort of orthodox names. David Smith against Steve Miller. Or else they're just like really abstract. I like c4, kind of interesting try. I guess there your knight e4 might actually turn into something. But that's more ambitious. White plays e3, and now you can play e6 or c6. I don't think that c5 necessarily mixes well with bishop f5. Theoretically could be played. e6 is solid. It keeps c5 in reserve. If white plays very passively, you could get away with playing c5 later. And this qualifies as passive. This definitely qualifies as passive. Bishop e2. h6, giving the bishop retreat square. Okay. And now knight on bd7. But I'm wondering if we could go bishop e7, castle, and play c5. There's a player here who actually played c5 right away. Some kind of Czech women's championship, it looks like, from 2017. The Czech women's championship. Or could be like Slovakia, but probably Czech. I guess, you know, c5 is a move. It's a more aggressive way to play. There's nothing wrong with knight d7. It's solid. Lars Oskar. Good old Lars Oskar. He always reminds me of the boy from Silver Spoons. What was that TV show again? Bishop d3. Alright, this is exciting. Moving the bishop a second time. Ricky Schroeder. Yeah, Ricky Schroeder's a toxic idiot, right? Man, sorry, Oscar. Yeah, I'm sorry to compare you to Ricky Schroeder, Trumpian actor. Knight on bd7, bishop d3. Wow, that's really impressive. Yeah, this is one reason why I don't play the London system. You get stuff like this going on. Now what do? We have to, like, what are we going to do? Play the Joko piano and play like bishop h7 or something? We can allow him to take on f5. where we can take on d3, which seems like lame, but the thing to do. Here, white can take on f5, and then we get a really good grip on e4. I don't know. It doesn't look so bad, to be honest. All right. He doesn't decide to do that. White plays the super passive c3. And now Mule Skinner decided to exchange on d3. Presumably because white no longer has the option to take with the pawn, which honestly wasn't that scary in the first place. Well, I mean, c5... The problem with c5 fancy chess is that if you wanted to play c5, it's better to back it up with knight c6. So if we play c5 and our knight's on d7, it's like, what the fuck, you know? If we play c5, we want to put the knight on c6, not on d7. So it almost doesn't make sense to play c5. I mean, you can play c5, but it doesn't have the kind of power behind it that it would with the knight on c6 would be much better. So I think he's just being faithful to the setup here. There's no need to play c5. You know, black's fully equal. This is boring but solid. You know, you could play you could play knight e4 here, maybe. But if bishop takes e7, queen e7, you know, the trap is basically anytime they try to do that, you have like a fork and you win material. I think knight e4 is worthwhile. This is not bad. It's totally equal. Castle. And now we might have a London system player playing white, dude. I don't know. He's not castling here. Okay, this is a good move. He doesn't want to see black getting that knight on e4. Maybe we should have played knight e4 when we could. We hesitated a little there. We're still equal. And now he plays c5. Well, I don't necessarily have a better suggestion for black. This reminds me a little bit of like the Caro-Kann. But winning, I mean, bro, we shouldn't be playing this bishop f5 type of stuff if we want to win, probably. It's hard to win against something as solid as the Tory attack, though. Obviously, it's like the London system. Extremely solid. White's playing also in a solid passive way. c5 is reasonable. And now I'm actually quite shocked by what happened next. White out of the blue plays c4. And if I'm black, I'm happy. I'm like, where did that come from? You know? This seems uncharacteristic. He just liked the symmetrical nature of the pawn structure. So if we take on d4... Problem is white can keep it boring, probably. But I think you should take on d4. You know, obviously we're hoping for injecting an IQP kind of dynamic here. Whatever. I don't care how we continue here, but we've already created an imbalance in the pawn structure, which means that we can play for two results. This move I don't quite understand. I mean, that's our strong point at d5. And the other idea is that if we take on d4 and he takes on d5, then we take on e3. So, we're attacking the knight. He has to recapture. Can't do that. Probably white will take back with a piece. But, I mean, there are some complications. If he takes with a knight, we have the ability to move this pawn forward. We have squares like knight c5, knight e5. Probably white would take with the queen. And now there's nothing special that we can do. But, you know, if anyone has a chance here to do something, it's black. I mean, our king is castled, his is not. We have the move, and we have a strong pawn on d5. So I don't understand why Mule Skinner is taking on c4. This doesn't seem right to me. I don't see the point. Maybe there's a trick with bishop e4 check. But even then, you know, we have to like take here first. It can't hurt to take here first. Maybe you could take twice. The idea would be, you know, like takes Knight takes bishop e4 check or something. That I don't think is a problem, though. Even there, white typically would play, Magnus has games in London where he walks around with his king on d1, I don't think this is a problem for white necessarily, though it could be. But how are you going to get the queen off of d4? How are you going to attack the king on e2? I don't understand this, taking on c4 business. Let's see what the computer says. Wow, it doesn't mind. It doesn't mind, but it agrees with me on some kind of microscopic level. Okay, but my computer is not that fast. My computer thinks that c takes d4 is better. Oh, it's like shifting now. Well, it really doesn't mind. Oh, it has a crazy idea. Wow. Well, that is outside the box. Mule Skinner's never going to do this. He did it. Oh my god. Wow, bro. You missed the ambulance sounds? Hold on. I'll help you out, man. Just a second. Guven Kurt, just hang in there for a minute or two. We'll get you some ambulance sounds. Just stay patient. It's like fishing. We might get a bite. Just take a minute or two. I'll open the window for nostalgia. Mule Skinner went off with d takes c4, so I didn't understand what he was doing. Damn, dude, he did the engine move. He did b5. He went crazy on the guy. That's pretty funny. If white takes with the queen, which I think is, less natural, we have some ideas. Rook c8. So, I stand corrected. He came up with a really neat idea. This is definitely counterintuitive, and I bet that white was surprised. He plays d takes c4, knight takes c4, and b5, creating a really dynamic situation. That is amazing. That's exactly what the computer wanted to do. It took it a while to see it, too. I turned on the engine, and it preferred c takes d. And then after it got to, depth, I don't know what, it turned over, and it started to slightly prefer this. Very, very, very slightly. But this is a cool idea. I mean, here we have a lot of different options. You could possibly push c4. I'm not sure that's a good idea, but it's a possibility. So I want to get to an interesting position, not some dead draw. Now white played very passively with knight d2. But if he doesn't, he could possibly be facing checks. If he tries to play more actively with knight e5, this looks really important, obviously. And now our b pawn is hanging, but we have, obviously, and I'm using that word too much now, check. Not sure this is a good move. What if we just take? We'll probably just take. Take, always take. Yeah, we just take, and maybe we can even take again. If knight c6, that's a bit of a problem. That's a bummer, the knight c6. I really don't like allowing that. A little bit of a bummer there. You could definitely play queen d5, but yeah, maybe this. Then e4. Damn. That's a bummer too. There's a lot of bummers around here. We keep running into brick walls. Every time it looks like we got something good, there's something problematic. This knight c6 though is, this guy has to play knight e5 here. Honestly, at least you have some activity, some threats of going knight c6. This is so passive what he does. Knight d2. Now black should keep up the pace. So c takes d4. The downside of this is that we end up in symmetrical land again. Something wrong with c4? No. No, c4 is going to be an option no matter what happens. But the thing about c4 is, this is a, this is a, speaking of concrete, this is a very strong pawn for white, giving him, long-term solid foothold in the center for the rest of the game. So if you play c4, you get a dynamic shot on the queenside with a queenside majority, 3 versus 2. But you take pressure off of d4, which solidifies that and also makes it possible for white to play, say, e4. I think it's probably a good try, objectively. But maybe we should do it like, take first and then c4. And, no, it's a good way to try to play for a win, objectively. We actually have bishop e4 check, which again may be overrated. That move may be overrated completely. But yeah, no, c4 is going to create a very dynamic situation. White has to respond by moving the queen. I don't think this is that bad. White can hang with the king on e2. Or worst case scenario, he could put the king on f1. But remember that this becomes very solid forever now. So if you decide to play c4, you're changing the course of the game momentously, if that's a word. It's a momentous occasion. And if you don't get something going quick enough, white could break it up with like a4, b3. But I think that black is okay here. Black has enough development. We have a slight lead in development. It also buys us time to say, cover c6 with some move, maybe queen d5, probably not, maybe like rook c8. Or, I guess bishop b4 check. Okay, this is defensible. And then white moves the king, and we do something like queen d5, and white makes another move, maybe f3. But even with f3, his d4 is so solid, it's hard to get in there. We can't really attack his king because his d4 pawn is unassailable. You might be too focused on trying to win. No, I think that c4 is a good way of creating imbalance. Well, b5 was a very good way of creating imbalance. We avoided the possibility of this game going down a really symmetrical path, a boring and symmetrical path. But now c takes d4, knight takes d4, and knight c5. But this is dangerous in the sense that it's a totally symmetrical structure. Now, unsurprisingly, white doesn't grab the pawn on b5. But let's just check and see, what would have happened if he had taken this pawn. What do we have for this pawn? We have rook b8 and rook takes b2, right? If queen takes b5, what else do we have? Some e5. But I don't think that e5 is going to cut it. Too many holes. So you have to play rook b8 with the idea of taking on b2. Now white's queen doesn't have a lot of squares. I'm going to say very few, in fact. Maybe c6 would be best, staying active. And after rook takes b2, white has a number of moves, but queen a5 is kind of problematic. If white just castles, he's completely okay. But does he get castled? Really close, but I'm a little worried. It doesn't look like white is getting castled. He's toast. Wow. White's lost here. I mean, I'm not sure queen c6 is necessarily white's best move. It's a blunder. c4 is better, but still, it's basically the same. Bishop f6, gf6. Still, how does white get out of the center? He can't get out of the center. So that was a really good idea by Milskinner. Another dynamic move. Offering this pawn on c5, b5, whatever. You are also more of a positional player. As soon as c4 strike you as natural. Well, I don't know what you mean by that. That's. I mean, I don't know. If I would call c4 positional. I mean, it's like you're playing with pawn. You're using pawn play, rather than tactical piece play or something like that. Yeah, I mean, pawn play is very important. queen e2, and now, yeah, so I don't know what to say, but I don't like the fact this is completely symmetrical. We've ended up in completely symmetrical land again. No ambulances. Govan Kurt. I thought I heard one in the background. I thought we got one for you there. Now, a really strange move. Queen d7. Squeeze me? You gotta admit this is kind of a weird move. You're like offering the guy a second chance to take the pawn. That's a pretty neat idea. And so now we do it with a queen trade. And we still go after said pawn. I mean, you can play knight d3. I imagine this is a dead draw. Like, this is drawville. If you check and he goes king e2 and you take with the knight on b2, that looks very drawish. But perhaps if we can get active. But this could involve, you know, here now you're losing the exchange. Unless you have something really neat. If you go here, he can take the pawn on a7, but I guess his knight would get trapped. This knight is likely not to be safe. So probably a reasonable gamble there by black. Yeah, knight a7. Jesus, it doesn't get trapped. But black is still a tiny bit better after knight a7. Black is so active even though he's down a pawn. Does not get trapped. But white could have gone for that, you know. So keep your hope up for an ambulance. Yeah, it's like a pot, boiling pot, you know. The watch pot doesn't boil. If you smoke a cigarette, the bus will come. Castle, and now e5. So this was the other idea with queen d7. But I'm afraid we're in symmetrical structure land here. It's getting very drawish. Yeah, this was the best. And now, you know, it's so easy to give up hope now. If you're black and it's like, oh man, this guy just wants to draw. What am I going to do? Still, we got to keep the pressure on somehow. But it doesn't look like much. This is pretty tough. I mean, e5 is a little weakening for us too. At the end of the day. I'm not saying I have a better suggestion though. You know? Maybe instead of queen d7 we have something more dynamic. What would Spielman have done? I just don't know about queen d7. This feels really sterile. But I don't think there's anything too fantastic. Hey, how about e5, man? What the fuck? Wait a minute here. What are we doing? He just like sacrificed the pawn with queen d7. Are we stupid? I mean, why can't we play e5? Isn't this the magic ticket? This is the ticket. Isn't this a try? I don't know if it's worth it or not. You know, he wanted to take away knight f5. But if he goes knight f5, we have a check now, and white has to move the king to f1. Do you think this is really okay for white? Just having his king chilling on f1? No problem at all? Because I don't think so. There is a problem with knight takes e7, though. This would require precarious calculation by black, I guess. One possibility would be e4, defending Mr. Knight. This gets kind of interesting. We've done our damage to his king coordination. Oh man, he has knight takes e4 here. That is such a nasty move. Oof, that should be illegal. Wow, we are not happy about that. Knight takes e4. Knight takes e4. And if knight takes e7 check, king h7. This is way too out of control. White is better. Damn. Yep, you're right. Can't do it. It's too risky. I mean, the other way to do it would be play knight d3 check and then pin him with e5. Now you're sacrificing multiple pawns, and it's probably unsound. Nothing we can do there. So queen d7 here, e5, knight b3, takes. It's getting more drawish by the minute. a6 is okay. And now, you know, might as well just offer a draw at this point. Of course, you have nothing to lose by playing it out. I don't know why the A rook. It seems like you should move the F rook. This rook could play a role here, defending a pawn. And plus, this gives you flight squares, centralize the king, bishop f8, multiple advantages of playing rook fc8, I think. The rook's not doing anything on f8. fc8 is better. This is good, but not enough. You know, at this point, white is tempted into playing b3, which looks kind of risky, because he's going to run into that square, which has led to the defeat of many people playing the white side of the Queen's Gambit Accepted, for example. An outpost on c3 would be deadly. I think that white should probably hack your knight on f6, like, immediately. On almost any move here. If he lets you play like knight e4, you're threatening knight c3, and he's got major problems. So this is it, man. I mean, b3, move the rook, and now he should definitely play this. Or at least very seriously consider it. Bishop takes c3. The symmetrical structure, bishop's got nothing here. Bishop takes. I don't believe that this is anything. It's fractionally better for black, but it should be a draw. But I'm afraid, man, after loosening c3, now you're threatening knight e4. I could see this going very south. So on this move now, you have a chance. The only way you can win this position is by sticking a knight on c3 and like outposting it there. So this is your golden opportunity. I also wonder if, you know, could it have been a mistake to play rook c5? You can go anywhere on, not this square, because you need that for your knight. If here, your rook can get, I mean, this is okay, actually. I understand you wanted to, like, protect the e5 pawn. Oh, it's reasonable. But okay, well, if we go here now, show me what happens. We're threatening knight c3. If he trades, because he's a trader, we take with the bishop. And we don't exchange anything, and that's left out there in the lurch on h4, which is pretty lame. He could play, for example, queen c2, and he probably frickin' survives. I mean, I don't know. I think you still have moves. Maybe even queen f5, that's kind of risky. Queen g6, knight takes c5. We might have to play f5, which I don't love, but it may actually not be bad. You have f4, some pressure against f2. But I think this is going to still be a draw. Maybe even trap his bishop with f5, f4 at some point later. You're a tiny bit better. But anyway, it's an attempt to win. I think you should go for it. Here, this is still not that bad. But again, your only chance is to get the knight in. And he can trade. You know, he should seriously consider this. His bishop sucks on h4 anyway. I would not hesitate to do this. In fact, white can play e4. No, this is a really good move now, actually. So what are you going to play? Bishop takes f6, e4. And are you going to argue here that black is better? Because I think that black might be worse. Reality, it's probably equal. Queen c6. I have a file, you have a file. But this bishop is really bad. It's not a good piece. You know, it's blocked by pawns all over the place. Luckily, it protects the back rank. You know, but it's not better than the knight, really, in the symmetrical pawn structure. Evaluation, still equal. Very well. White should definitely trade that guy. You know, he doesn't understand that he's being dogmatic, that, like, bishops are better than knights. And now g5, which is actually a really strong move. Here. But ironically, you know, this may not be that bad for him to allow knight takes g3. And that's what happens. I'm not sure he put his queen on the right square. But I guess attacking e5 makes some sense here. And now the problem is, like, still, he has a pretty good knight. If you play e4, you extend the diagonal of your bishop. This, my friend, may be a very important move. Can you hear me? You gotta give squares to get squares. Yes, it's dangerous. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it is a mistake. Because if he plays g4, it's like a Slav. He gets locked in there. Damn. But I don't like f6 either. You know what? b4 deserves consideration. Because again, you can go here. That might not be a bad idea. Lock him into there. Rook c3. I really don't like f6, bro. I mean, e4 may not be good, but f6 is definitely not good. You're weakening the 7th rank. You're putting another pawn on the dark squares. So I say screw it. You know, then do neither. Or if you have nothing better, I don't know, bishop f6 or something. But I don't want to play freaking f6. I mean, this is like cheese. It just totally weak on the light squares. Dragonfly Hunter, what's up? No, technical position. This is important. What's the best move? h5, master. That's some serious cheese right there. f6 is not an option. Well, even g4, I'll bet. Anybody wants to go g4? Do you like triple pawns? I'll tell you what, like anything but f6. This is the worst move ever. I'm trying to suppress myself from sneezing. Yeah, this is the worst move ever. Ugh. Horrible. Make our bishops great again. Queen b1, king g7. White needs to consider... Well, no, g4, actually. I'm beginning to like white now. Like, black's trying to lose at this point. He's trying to prevent g4 with h5. Yeah, I mean, that's a standard idea, isn't it? Like, in a lot of strategy books, where you'll see this type of move recommended, of course. Freezing those weak pawns, essentially. It's not just that, though. I think it's also supporting g4 itself. And g4 puts the pawns on the opposite color of our bishop, which is what we want, you know. Now there's like 5 out of 7 moms who prefer Jif to Skippy, you know. Whereas before we played h5, only 4 out of 7 prefer Jif. It's like Democrats and Republicans. But anyway, it's like this is basically not the Supreme Court, because we still have close to an even count. f6 very bad now. The kingside go is totally Republican. Queen b1, king g7, rook c1. This guy's still playing for a draw. And kind of badly, too. Now he plays g4, my god. Holy shit, bro. What about e4? No. e4, knight d4. Yeah, g4 is a good move. But, you know, you had a million moves to prevent that from happening. This is a nice combative move. Queen e4, anyone? There it is. Oh, no. Here, here. Things are getting worse. We're on the defensive now. Yikes. Oh, king f2. Didn't expect that. I expected him to actually hide his king on h2. But maybe this is better. Unfortunately, he panics and trades queens. But I don't know that's a good way to play for a win. e4 is still in the air. And so he has no time to play, you know, like actively. You manage to give yourself a chance to lose. Oh, man. I don't know, man. This looks ugly. I don't even like king g6. Maybe. Maybe it's okay. I don't know. You're in trouble now. Knight e4. Jesus Christ. Rook c6. What are we going to do? This is a nightmare. You're playing like Vallejo pawns. Move 39 Vallejo pawns. I just went over this game, right? It was literally Spanish Team Championship. I think Mule Skinner's game is from some Spanish Team Championship, amateur Spanish Team Championship. I just saw this game for 2023 Spanish Team Championship. It was Van Forest against Vallejo Pons, and the computer said that Vallejo lost the game on move 39. He made his first inaccuracy on move 39. Rook a7. But I was like, dude, the computer says it's like minus 1 point or plus 1.9. You can't make your first inaccuracy on move 39, dude, and have played like a perfect game, bro. You know, if you have a lost position, I'd rather sack the pawn than defend passively. So maybe we can do just that. Is there any way we can defend more actively than rook a7? Maybe you're right though. The evaluation for b4 was close to as good as his other moves. Okay, your threat is a5, a4 now. Black is probably still not lost. You might even have h5 at some point, and you might be able to play a5, a4. But I am worried about a5. If a5, rook b6, and the b-pawn goes. I wonder if we can lose a pawn somehow. Oof, this looks ugly. There it goes. Now white doesn't play rook b6. This move looks kind of tough. You probably have to go a4, give up a pawn, take, and then rook a2 check, king f3. I mean, I don't know. This definitely doesn't look good. So we might have another option. I just don't know what it is. Well, I guess worst comes to worst, we can always just like move our king back and forth, or move our rook back and forth. You're not obligated to play a5. Okay, you're not obligated to losing the pawn either. a5, okay, rook b6, b4. Yeah, alright. Yeah, maybe it's not lost. We still have a4. Yeah, it's probably still not lost. Plus 0.7, 0.6. We're still hanging on. But black really is trying to lose. This is kind of a cool move. Anything putting the pawns on the right color, I'm all for it. Now b4. And if he takes the pawn on b4, he's losing it, which is what happened. Oh, we're not. We got bishop c7. Oh, man. Oh, man. We're probably losing now. Oh, my God. So white is definitely winning at this point. But, you know, it's very possible this is not the complete game and that more moves were played later, like in time pressure. I'm sorry, guys, no ambulances, of course. I don't know. Yul Skinner may not be here, so I don't know. Rook d6, where? I didn't see any points where rook d6 was an option. Around here? Something around here, I don't know what it did. White is clearly better. White's winning now. So after knight c3, don't we have a better way to play here? Perhaps we could sacrifice the pawn. Maybe this is the time to go active. I don't know though. Bishop e4 doesn't work because of knight d5. This is a tough position now. We're really close to lost. So this is his last chance. Black has to play a4. Apparently right away. But I mean, Yul Skinner really did not play his ending too well. I think it was likely time pressure. You know, he got the first time pressure before move 40. And in fact, I think he sent me the time control. 60-30 game. That sounds like one time control to me. Oof, and 60 plus 30. This is not 90 plus 30. Ouch. So that's wow. Yeah, that's the maximum fastness. That's the 2 games a day time control. That's this 5 or 6 day tournament time control. Game 60 with a 30-second increment. I guess that's the fastest that FIDE allows for classical now. Not a good position. Whoops. And so we've got, okay, Yul Skinner, yeah, that was rough, man. I mean, he was better the whole game. And it's ridiculous that he's getting tortured in the end game. But for me, like, the move that was the worst was f6. There's also this thing about this position here. He guards against the threat of what? Knight c3? But his bishop is horrible. If you want to play f6, then play it now, dude. I mean, if you have to play f6, then don't trade the knight on g3. That's what I would say. Anything is better than that. Imagine this position. I mean, bishop f6 is better than playing knight takes g3, objectively. What's the bishop going to do? It's going to go to h2 and to g1. So this was very poorly planned out. But I mean, this going back like a number of moves. If you go back here, like, white is an idiot, you know. He could have avoided all of this shit by playing bishop takes f6 at any moment. But, you know, he brought it on himself. g5 was a good move by black. That was a major wake-up call. And now knight e4 is fine, threatening knight c3, and that was our idea. Now here, he's starting to take on e5. But let's pause for advertisement. What if b4? Bishop takes e5. That's a problem. That's probably a problem. Probably. You got to even wonder about that, though. I mean, even like bishop takes e5, knight c3. Is this... I mean, I guess white's up a pawn here. Alright. But still. Yeah, it looks like bishop takes g3. Knight takes g3 is a mistake. You had knight c3 right away. You had knight c3 right away, and you didn't play it. Oh no. Oh damn, of course. So white, oh man, this is just strong. I think you assumed something that wasn't there. This even forces white to abandon the open file. This is a whole nother ballgame. Wow. Rook e1 is a disaster. And now you can play your ugly f6 if you want to. Because at the end of the day, like, this bishop is still better than this bishop. So long as you don't let, like, a queen pop in on g6 or something. That was a really instructive game. Mule Skinner had tons of chances and then should have lost at the end. Okay, this is the power of the new. I got a game from this player. Power of the new, are you here? Because I don't remember who you are. Never remember who you are. Power of the new, this is a 10-0. Rated rapid game against Viktor Mikalik. Mikalik. That's not Serbian, obviously. It's probably like Ukrainian or something. Okay. d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop e7. This move has kind of gone out of fashion. You know, it's kind of funny. In the old days, they used to play this move to avoid bishop g5. But the irony is, like, probably like bishop f4 is actually better than bishop g5. So it also maybe avoids certain variations of the exchange. You know, there's more to it than just that. But it's not that popular. It's funny, bishop e7. Yeah, I mean, okay, now in the exchange you get very specific variations. It's, I guess, depending on what kind of exchange variation you like to play with black. But now white plays knight f3, doesn't go for the exchange, knight f6, and then bishop g5. But, like, the grandmaster move is nowadays like more bishop f4, so-called Harwitz attack, not Horowitz but Harwitz. I mean, this has been popular for a very long time because, like, bishop g5 has been analyzed to death for like 100 years. I still play that move because I always did. But honestly, like, bishop f4 is sort of analyzed to death too. I mean, I think the whole Queen's Gambit is sort of analyzed to death. It's a solid choice for black. Bishop g5, and now I like h6. I would say black should play h6 unless you intend to play the orthodox variation. Castles, e3. And it's not too late to play h6 now. Again, unless you intend to play the orthodox. If you intend to play the orthodox, then just play knight on bd7. It's not not really a good winning attempt for black. But h6, okay. And now bishop h4. And now black has the Tartikover. Or the Lasker variation. You have two very good choices here. But I don't recommend knight on bd7. If black wants to play the orthodox, then you shouldn't play h6. Although there are games where people do this. I don't really think it's that great. I think the Tartikover is very solid, very good for black. And super solid Lasker variation with knight e4. Both good. This move I am unfamiliar with. So when black plays this move, I think that typically what black wants to do is kind of pretend that they're playing... black wants to pretend they're playing the semi-Slav and play like an extended fianchetto by doing d takes c4, bishop takes c4, and b5 with one move. I feel more comfortable with d4, Dragonfly Hunter. I like playing e4. It's more fun. I'm the opposite. You know, I played more d4 and I know d4 better. But for me, it's more fun to play e4 because I know it less well. a6 is just... I mean, I don't know if I even have any games here. By the way, guys, I'm approaching 30,000 games on lichess. And I don't play a lot to some people, compared to some people. We're going to have the 30,000th game celebration for Sparkle Horse. The only account I played here much. I had a B account, or a Smurf account, but I don't use it much. I might delete it and create a new one. All right, let's see. As white, all set. No games found. Wow. Yeah. So I have 112 games here from this particular position, and I have 49 B6, 32 knight e4s, 21 knight on BD7s. 5 C6s and 2 knights C6. Have any? Oh no, and I have I have 2 C5s and even 1 D takes C4. Not one player played A6 against me. So I know a little bit about this type of position. Now what do we do against A6? One possibility is that there can be some sort of exchange on F6. Because they can't take with the knight, they have to take with the bishop. But what we want to do is to get into a position where a6 doesn't really make sense for black. What sort of structure or strategic situation is a6 not going to make any sense? If we play bishop takes f6 unprovoked, bishop takes f6, we have possibilities like, for example, b4 you could play, where you clamp down, stopping c5. Another possibility is exchanging pawns, but again, if you do that, you got to watch that you're letting this free range bishops. So that's one possibility. You know, I think that this is a normal move, rook c1. But keep in mind, if you do rook c1, you're going to see a lot of take, and b5 type of stuff. And now you have to be very... Is this a rare case where you could play c5 in the Queen's Gambit? Yeah. Yeah, against a6 they do it. I mean, this is like more commonly played here. Knight on bd7, for example, rook c1, and a6. I'm surprised there's not more games. Oh, those are my games. Yeah. Yeah, so this is like Carlsbad variation or whatever. c5 is a major variation here. You don't have to be Zuckertort playing it like prematurely in the first World Championship match against Steinitz. I mean, a6 justifies c5 to some degree. Black will play c6, and it's like a Slav. It's like a Slav where our bishop's outside the pawn chain. But I mean, you know, it's like an a6 Slav, basically. Very similar. Yeah, we can play c5 in a lot of positions. But I don't know. a6 here. Has this been played? This Martin Kramer, I don't know anything about him. So it's basically played by some random dudes. Prohashka in 2011. Igor Ivanov played it. He was probably half in the bag. Casa Curley, that guy, played this. Yeah, I mean, it just seems like a move that like random people have played, but it doesn't have any real independent significance. It is hard to judge what white should do. Interesting here, no one ever played bishop takes f6. I don't think this is so bad. What was my suggestion? What was up with my suggestion with b4? Shit, black has a secret move now. Knight c6. That's a crazy idea. Wow. How does that even work? Can't I just like move my rook? He's got e5. Mother. Who would have imagined this shit was possible? My king is still in the center. This is wild. Oh wait, it was an off the cuff suggestion. Obviously we don't have to play bishop takes f6. Rook c1 is a normal move. But you played c takes d? You avoid d takes c, but I mean I still think I like rook c1 better. So opponent can take with the pawn. And I think that's a little more fundamental to keep the strong point on d5. We have knight takes d5. And now, okay. I don't know what a6 does for black here. I don't see what it does here for black. Bishop g3 is an option. This was played in one game. I guess black would have time to play c5 in that case. He didn't do it, but it's definitely a move. What's wrong with c5? Uber driver, bishop g3, c5. I don't know. I don't know that bishop g3 is right. I think it's wrong. I think this is right. Queen takes. And the way that these players played with rook c1 makes sense. I still don't see the justification for a6. Yeah, so here there's some pretty strong games with the Macedonian Grandmaster Stojanovic. It's hard to see how a6 benefits black in this position. It just makes the structure less flexible. So good. Rook c1 is good. There's one game with c6, but again, it's like, what the fuck is a6? What is that doing? You know, what did that do? a6 literally has no value other than to weaken black's position. Knight takes c3. Igor was black. He played c6 as well. White is better here. I mean, there's no question. But Basin gave him a draw because he was a really good player. And white did win one game against rook d8. My old tournament roommate, Krupanchnik, played a game and beat a 22-87. We stayed together at some tournament in Paksh. I remember that. So a friend of mine from Slovenia, and I am from Ljubljana. No, he's not from Ljubljana. He's from the east. The word is escaping me. City in eastern Slovenia. Anybody know what I'm talking about? All right. Rook d8, whatever, not a good move. Black plays queen b4. This is not good either. And now knight takes c3. So that renders queen b4 rather useless. Here you can capture with all three recaptures. Queen takes is the safest, but not maybe the most ambitious. I mean, I don't know. You know, I think that all three recaptures are good, but this would change the structure and probably be a little bit illogical with the rook on c1. I still think that you're better in all cases here. This is the safest move. But white's advantage is probably the smallest of the three. You know, so you've got to grind him down now. But I wouldn't want to be black here against Akiba Rubinstein, I'll tell you that. I mean, knight e5, knight c4, knight b6, knight d6. White has a nice advantage. Maybe we should play this first, with the idea that if black tries to trade it, we pop back to c4. And we can menace the opponent from these squares. But I'm not sure. I mean, he could get this in. Doesn't work, right? Doesn't work. Yeah, so that's typical scenario where black is regretting playing a6. You know, if he hadn't played a6, he might be able to play c5 here, but now it loses to knight b6. We avoid exchanges. Not easy position for black to play. I guess rook d8. Trying to bring the king to the center to hold the d6 square, but white is definitely better. So black plays c6, bishop d3, knight d7, and now king e2. This is okay. However, you know, alternatively you have this, this, and this. I wouldn't want to screw around too much here because black can get in e5 and like equalize. I'm not sure about f6. That's kind of a weakening move. So maybe black should try rook e8 instead. I think I like rook e8 the best. But I don't think that black can equalize easily. f6 and now a4. You know, I was even thinking that black might want to play a5, to be honest. So I don't like a4. Because of that specific reason. I mean, if you play a4, he plays a5, and now your pawns are fixed on the wrong color. Your pawn is fixed on the wrong color on a4. I would think like maybe b4 would make more sense than a4. Then you could play a4. Play b4 first, and then a4. And if a5, you have options. So b4 seems better. Black plays f6, you played a4. Why not a5 for black now? It's the only good move. The only way to fly. a5, yeah. Plays too passive. King f7, and now, again, b4. But you played a5. This is probably not a bad move. But it also reduces your flexibility on the queen side. Now you can't break with b5. So I would still think like b4. Okay, you have to watch this tactically. Variations along these lines, you know, where make sure everything stays protected. But it looks like white is better in most variations. King f7, a5. It's a little too closed. King e7, and now g4. Not to give the same lecture on the other side, but I think that maybe we should play h4. Still, I think g4 is better than a4, because here g5 is not so stable. We have h4 and we can rip open the h-file for our rook. I'm not sure g4 is as bad as a4. And that's the plan. You know, you go with both pawns and you're threatening g5. So black's position is very difficult. Really master level game by white. Though I'm not sure about this bishop on g6. Very aggressive play by white. Knight f8, and you're just back. And now e5. Black structure is looks weak. I mean, the g-file looks really juicy. Look how patient white is here. So tempting to exchange and maybe open the file and isolate the pawns. Well, white just goes rook g1. That's the engine's #1 move. It's close, to be fair. G takes h6, G takes h6, g6 f6. Is taking on e5 a mistake? It's a mistake. You should definitely take here first. and then play rook g1, or you could take here. Computer kind of likes that for black. But white's definitely better. Now rook g1, h5, trying to play for bishop g4. King f1. Ooh, the sidestep. Well, anyway, I mean, you could play pawn takes pawn. This doesn't hurt to throw that in there. I mean, can't you stick your knight on g5 here? Wait a minute. This may be an important moment. You know, you can play pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, and knight g5. Now you can meet bishop g4 with f3. So I think that black is in big trouble here. This actually looks quite promising. Yeah, it's practically winning. So I think this king f1 is a bad move. The first bad move by white. I mean, that's very passive. Plus he has like bishop h3 check. So why put the king on f1? I see. So if you go here, you didn't like this. And then he'll take on d4. But you definitely should exchange on e5. I don't know why white is reluctant to exchange on e5. You should exchange 2 sets of pawns and then play. Exchange, open the g-file, exchange here, give an isolated pawn, and then play from here. But this is a very good outpost on g5. King f1 is a mistake. Check, king e1, and now bishop g4, and now black will take on d4. If you don't do something now, and you did. But should you take here first? That's a good question. Maybe you should. Again, takes, 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 and the key is that you get this outpost on g5. I guess it doesn't really matter. You can put your knight on d2 anyway, which is what happened. But you didn't get the open g-file here. You know, I think that's a pity, you know. The open g-file, of course, there's one more pawn on the board, which might improve your winning chances in some sense. But now we're very surprised. He did keep, or white did keep all 6 pawns on the board. 5. How many pawns is this now? 6 pawns each. A little bit hesitant play by white. You know, the whole 92 is fine. Now I was expecting knight here. I guess it's not so clear because you would allow like bishop f5. No, it's definitely a mistake to play rook g1 and not open the g file. Because, like, what is our rook doing here now? You know, why is the rook on g1? You'll Skinner already did your game. So this is a little annoying. Feels like it degenerated. Yeah, it degenerated in the time situation. Okay. That's why. That's why white's play has been, like, substandard for the last few moves. White has a major time disadvantage compared to black. 35 seconds versus 3.5 minutes. And now white decided to go giving up the 2 pieces here. But I would think that black should be okay. Actually, this looks very, very bad because black has knight g6, threatening knight takes h4. Oh no. Bro played that. He had knight g6, attacking the pawn duo. That's not good. You're going to have to sacrifice. I don't know. It looks like you're losing here. Now, you're lucky that black didn't, he was playing too fast. Kind of like kid who plays too fast, probably. That knight is not happy now. My God, it was on f5 before. Now it's on d7. What did it do? It's a tragedy. It's a knight tragedy. It has no squares. f8, b8, b6, c5, e5, f6. It was going to blockade on f5 a minute ago. That's a disaster. My God. He had bishop on g6. No, he had knight on g6, bishop on d7. White couldn't penetrate. One of the pawns was falling, and now white's hanging on. Oh shit. What's b4 about? So you didn't want to allow knight c5, but now you lose your nugget. You can do anything here. Rook e8. Okay, white has no time. Is there any way to make this threat of b5 functional? No. Well, only with a rook on c7. If you put your rook on c7, you can play b5 with some tricks. So it looks like here you could try like rook c8, and if king g4 b5, that's too slow. It's too slow. We should be losing here. Aha. Oh. So maybe white, yeah, needs to be more careful. Black needs to be more careful. That was good. You had rook e6. Uh-huh. No time. We got increment. Now you have rook h8, bishop d5, and now what, like king e5, h2, king takes knight. Okay, so king g2, g8 queen, takes check, and you win. Black resigns. That's really impressive bullet play. But objectively, like, Black was probably winning before. Horrifying time management by Black. So on rook e8, he went to king g4, and then rook here, and then king takes h4, rook takes g6, king g4, rook g7, h4. So h4 is a blunder. But this isn't easy. This isn't easy. This is a very counterintuitive move now. Black has to find king f4. Something like that. I think earlier, you know, the thing that really struck me was here. He doesn't find knight g6 here. It's like, dude, that's easily winning. There's nothing that white can do. Alright, guys, so, you know, time plays a role in these 10-0 games. But it wasn't 10-0, it was 10-0 plus 5. Okay. 10-0 plus 5. Well, actually, no excuses for Black there. He had 2 minutes more and 5-second increment. He got caught trying to flag his opponent with quick moves, and the 5-second increment was too much. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'm kind of beat, so I'm going to pack it in early tonight. We appreciate your support, and we'll be back on Sunday with a subscriber stream. Usual time, 6:30 Sunday. Thanks, everybody, and I'm out. Good games. See you on Sunday. Thanks for the support from Mr. Slow. Thanks to the raid from Chess Dexter. And thanks to all you guys. Have a great weekend. And I will be back tomorrow. Sorry. Tomorrow we'll do some blitz for a couple hours. Around 12:30, 1 p.m. All right, guys. See you later. Bye.